There are dreams that fade the moment you wake, and there are dreams that stay with you long after sleep has left your body. When the dead appear in dreams, it is rarely accidental, and it is never meaningless. These encounters do not follow the rules of memory or imagination. They arrive with a weight, a clarity, and a familiarity that feels different from ordinary dreams. In the inner sciences, sleep is not seen as escape, but as a doorway, a place where the soul loosens its ties to the body and moves within subtler realms of meaning. In that space, what is hidden during waking life is sometimes allowed to appear, not to frighten, but to communicate, not to disturb, but to realign. According to the understanding attributed to Ibn Arabi, when the dead visit the living in dreams, it is not the body that meets them, but the soul, and the soul only encounters what it is ready to recognize. These dreams are not about loss. They are about connection, remembrance, and unfinished inner movements seeking resolution. To understand these dreams, one must look beyond symbols and fear and listen instead to what the soul is being shown in silence. Lesson 1: The soul meets, not the body. When the dead appear in dreams, the experience is often misunderstood because the mind tries to interpret it through physical rules. People imagine the body meeting another body, or memory replaying something familiar. But in the inner understanding, this is not what is happening. The meeting does not take place between forms. It takes place between states of being. Sleep loosens the soul's tight bond with the body, allowing it to move within subtler layers of reality where material limits no longer apply. In waking life, the soul is anchored to the body through sensation, responsibility, and constant interaction with the physical world. This anchoring narrows perception, but in sleep, that grip relaxes. The soul is no longer constrained by time, distance, or physical identity in the same way. This is why dreams can feel timeless, why moments can stretch or compress, and why encounters can feel real without following logic. The soul is operating in a realm where meaning matters more than form. When the dead appear in this space, it is not because the body has traveled somewhere, nor because the dead have returned physically. It is because the soul has entered a state where recognition becomes possible. The meeting happens through compatibility. Souls do not meet in dreams because of desire alone, nor because of emotional longing. They meet because there is resonance. Something within the living soul aligns with something unresolved, remembered, or acknowledged within the unseen order. This is why not everyone dreams of the dead in the same way, and why some never do at all. The soul does not encounter what it is not ready to recognize. Readiness here does not mean intention or conscious effort. It means inner alignment. When the soul reaches a state where a particular connection can be held without distortion, fear, or confusion, the encounter is permitted. Until then, the veil remains. These dreams often feel different from ordinary dreams because they carry a distinct quality. There is usually a sense of stillness rather than chaos. The atmosphere feels calm, heavy, or clear, even if the content itself is simple. The mind may struggle to recall details, but the feeling remains vivid. This is because the soul remembers before the intellect does. The experience is registered at a deeper level than imagery or narrative. In many cases, there are few words exchanged, or none at all. This confuses people who expect messages to be spoken. But in the inner path, communication does not rely on language. Meaning is transferred through presence. A look, a nearness, a silence can carry more understanding than a sentence. The soul receives what it needs without explanation, because explanation belongs to the mind, and this encounter is not addressed to the mind. This is also why these dreams can feel peaceful, even when the relationship in waking life was complicated. The soul is not revisiting history, it is encountering essence. In the subtle realms, the weight of personality, conflict, and circumstance loosens. What remains is recognition at the level of being. The dream is not rewriting the past. It is revealing something beneath it. Some people wake from such dreams feeling comforted without knowing why. Others feel unsettled but reflective. Both responses point to the same truth. The soul has been touched. It has encountered something real, even if the mind cannot categorize it. This is not imagination in the ordinary sense. Imagination rearranges known images. These dreams carry a coherence that does not feel constructed. They feel received. It is important to understand that this meeting does not imply that the dead are wandering or trapped, nor that the living are being summoned. Such fears come from interpreting the experience through physical assumptions. The inner sciences do not frame these encounters as intrusion. They are moments of alignment within a greater order that remains balanced and purposeful. The soul is not powerless in sleep. It is guided. What it encounters is not random, and it is not chaotic. Even when the dream feels intense, it unfolds within limits set by what the soul can bear. This is why fear rarely dominates these encounters unless fear already exists unresolved within the dreamer. The soul is not shown what would shatter it. It is shown what it can integrate. Understanding this lesson removes unnecessary fear. When the dead appear in dreams, it does not mean something has gone wrong. It does not mean you are being pulled backward into grief or loss. It means the soul has entered a state where a certain recognition was possible. The meeting is not about the body returning. It is about the soul remembering its own capacity to encounter beyond form. Lesson 2. Not every visit is a message, but every visit has meaning. One of the most common misunderstandings about dreaming of the dead is the belief that every such dream must contain a clear message that needs to be decoded. People wake up searching for hidden words, symbols, or instructions, worried that they may miss something important if they do not interpret the dream correctly. This anxiety itself often comes from treating the dream as a puzzle meant for the mind, rather than an experience meant for the soul. In the inner sciences, meaning does not always arrive through language. In fact, the deepest meanings rarely do. Words belong to the realm of explanation, while dreams of this nature belong to the realm of recognition. The soul does not speak the way the mind speaks. It communicates through states, impressions, and subtle shifts in awareness. When the dead appear in dreams, their presence alone can be the meaning. Sometimes the dead appear simply to mirror something within the living, an unresolved feeling, an unacknowledged attachment, a softened grief, or a readiness to release what was once held tightly. In such cases, there is no message to deliver because the soul already knows what is being shown. The dream is not instructing, it is revealing. According to the understanding attributed to Ibn Arabi, the unseen does not speak unnecessarily. Speech belongs to need, silence belongs to sufficiency. If words are absent in the dream, it is because words are not required. The soul receives what it is capable of holding in that moment, not what the mind demands for reassurance or control. This is why many dreams of the dead feel quiet. There is often no dramatic conversation, no warning, no explanation. The dead may appear briefly, look at you, sit near you, or simply exist within the dream space. The power of the dream lies not in what is said, but in how it feels. The emotional tone carries the meaning. Calm, heaviness, warmth, distance, reassurance, or unresolved tension are all forms of communication. The mind often wants certainty. It wants to label the dream as good or bad, meaningful or meaningless, comforting or frightening. But the soul does not work in opposites, it works in resonance. A dream that leaves you unsettled is not necessarily negative. It may be pointing towards something that has not yet been integrated. A dream that leaves you calm is not necessarily a sign of completion. It may simply indicate alignment in that moment. Meaning, in this sense, is not something added to the dream after waking. It is something already present within the experience. The role of the dreamer is not to dissect, but to notice. What stayed with you after waking? What emotion lingered longer than the images? What shifted inside you, even slightly? These are the places where meaning lives. It is also important to understand that not every visit is about the dead themselves. Often, the soul uses familiar forms to communicate inner realities. The appearance of someone who has passed away may represent a quality, a memory, or a phase associated with them. This does not make the dream imaginary. It makes it symbolic in the truest sense, where symbol points toward essence rather than distraction. People sometimes fear that if the dead appear without speaking, it means something is wrong or unfinished. But silence does not imply lack. Silence often implies completion at a level beyond explanation. The soul may already have resolved what the mind is still trying to understand. The dream acknowledges this resolution without narrating it. There are also moments when the dead appear simply to remind the living of continuity, not continuity of personality, but continuity of being. The soul recognizes the soul. No message is needed, because the recognition itself is the message. The dream reassures without explanation, grounding the heart rather than stimulating the mind. This lesson teaches restraint in interpretation. Over-interpreting these dreams can pull them out of their proper place and turn a subtle experience into unnecessary confusion. The inner path values discernment over obsession. It asks the dreamer to trust what was felt rather than forcing meaning into words. When a dream of the dead arrives, the most honest question is not, "What were they trying to tell me?" but, "What shifted inside me because of this?" The answer to that question is often quieter, but far more accurate. Every visit carries meaning, but that meaning is not always verbal. Sometimes it is emotional, sometimes it is spiritual. Sometimes it is simply a moment of recognition allowed by the unseen order. The soul understands this naturally. It is the mind that must learn to be patient. Lesson 3. The dead appear when the living are ready to see. Dreams in which the dead appear do not arrive by accident, nor do they appear simply because time has passed or memory has resurfaced. In the inner understanding, these encounters are linked to readiness rather than loss. The soul does not witness what it cannot yet carry. When the dead appear, it is not because they are seeking entry into the living world, but because the living soul has reached a state where recognition is possible without harm. Readiness here does not mean emotional strength in the ordinary sense. It does not require certainty, knowledge, or even conscious desire. Often, it arrives quietly, through softening rather than effort. The heart becomes less defended. Resistance eases. The soul stops demanding answers and begins allowing experience. In this openness, the veil between inner awareness and unseen meaning thins naturally. These dreams frequently occur during moments of inner transition. Grief may have shifted from sharp pain to quiet remembrance. Forgiveness may have begun to replace resentment, even if only partially. A long-held question may have lost its urgency, or the soul may simply have entered a period of reflection where it listens more than it speaks. In such moments, the soul becomes receptive without trying to be. This receptivity is essential. The unseen does not move toward disturbance. It moves toward balance. According to the perspective attributed to Ibn Arabi, realities reveal themselves when the heart is prepared to receive them without distortion. If fear dominates, recognition collapses into confusion. If attachment dominates, recognition becomes longing. But when the heart is steady, recognition becomes understanding. This explains why similar dreams can feel comforting to one person and unsettling to another. The difference is not in the dream itself, but in the state of the dreamer. The dead do not change. The soul encountering them does. When the heart is ready, the encounter does not overwhelm. It informs. Many people notice that these dreams arise after a period of inner quiet. Life may have slowed emotionally. Distractions may have lost their pull. The soul may feel less reactive, less driven by urgency. This stillness is not emptiness in the sense of absence. It is emptiness as space. Space allows perception. Without space, everything is filtered through emotion. The dead do not appear to interrupt this stillness, they appear within it. The dream often carries a calm atmosphere, even when the relationship in waking life was complex. This is because the encounter is not revisiting the past. It is occurring at the level of essence. What was tangled in circumstance loosens in the dream state, allowing the soul to meet without the weight of history. Another sign of readiness is the absence of fear during the dream. Even if surprise is present, fear is often minimal or absent altogether. The soul recognizes that it is not being threatened, it is being shown. This recognition does not come from reasoning, it comes from alignment. The soul knows when it is safe to witness. Readiness also explains timing. Some people dream of the dead soon after loss. Others do not dream of them for years. This difference does not reflect love, attachment, or neglect. It reflects the pace at which the soul integrates experience. Some souls soften quickly, others require time to release tension. The dream arrives when release has occurred enough for recognition to be held. It is important to understand that readiness does not imply completion. The soul does not need to be healed or resolved for these dreams to occur. It needs to be receptive. Receptivity is not the same as resolution. It is the willingness to witness without trying to control. Even unresolved emotions can coexist with readiness as long as they are no longer dominating perception. This is why these dreams often follow moments of surrender rather than effort. The soul stops pushing. It stops demanding explanation. It allows things to be as they are. In that allowance, unseen realities can approach without resistance. The meeting is not forced, it is permitted. Many people interpret these dreams as signs that the dead are checking on them or sending reassurance. While this interpretation can feel comforting, the inner sciences focus less on intention and more on alignment. The appearance itself is the sign. It indicates that the soul has entered a state where deeper layers of reality are accessible. The dream is less about communication and more about capacity. Capacity here refers to the soul's ability to witness without collapsing into fear, obsession, or longing. When that capacity develops, the soul can encounter without clinging. It can remember without being pulled backward. It can recognize without being destabilized. This is readiness. When the living are ready to see, the dead appear not as disruptions, but as confirmations. They confirm that the soul's perception has widened, that it is no longer limited to surface reality, that it can hold subtle truths without needing to grasp them. These dreams often leave behind a sense of humility rather than excitement. The soul awakens aware that it has touched something meaningful, yet not something to be possessed. There is often a quiet reverence that follows, a sense that something sacred was glimpsed without being fully understood. This humility protects the experience from being reduced to curiosity. It is also worth noting that readiness is temporary. The veil thins and thickens according to the soul's state. One dream does not guarantee repetition. The soul is shown what it needs at a particular moment. When that need passes, the door may close again without loss. The encounter is not meant to be repeated endlessly. It is meant to be integrated. Understanding this lesson removes fear and expectation. The dead do not appear to disturb the living. They appear when the living can see without disturbance. The dream is not an invasion, it is an alignment. Lesson 4. What you feel matters more than what you see. When the dead appear in dreams, the mind instinctively focuses on images. How did they look? Were they smiling or silent? Did they speak? Where did the meeting take place? While these questions feel natural, they often lead the dreamer away from the real source of meaning. In the inner understanding, imagery is only the surface. What matters far more is the emotional atmosphere carried within the encounter. Dreams of this nature do not communicate through spectacle, they communicate through resonance. The soul does not deliver truth by impressing the eye, it delivers truth by touching the heart. This is why two people can have very similar dreams and yet wake with entirely different understandings. The meaning lies not in what was seen, but in what was felt. The emotional tone of the dream is never accidental. Calm, reassurance, heaviness, distance, warmth, unease, or quiet neutrality all reflect something real within the dreamer's inner state. These feelings are not judgments, they are indicators. They show alignment or imbalance, settlement or tension, readiness or resistance. The soul uses feeling as its primary language because feeling reaches where thought cannot. If the dream leaves behind a sense of peace, something within the soul has settled, even if the mind cannot explain how. This peace is not necessarily happiness, it is steadiness, a sense that something has been placed where it belongs. The soul recognizes this placement without needing explanation. The calm is the message. If the dream leaves behind heaviness or discomfort, this does not mean the dream was negative. Often it indicates that something unresolved has come close enough to be noticed. The soul is not being punished. It is being invited to attend to something that has been carried quietly. Unease points toward attention, not fear. This is why interpretation that focuses only on symbols often misses the truth. Symbols shift according to culture, memory, and imagination, but emotional resonance is consistent. It cuts through interpretation and speaks directly to the state of the heart. The inner path always prioritizes what transforms the heart over what entertains the mind. In the teachings attributed to Ibn Arabi, realities reveal themselves according to the capacity of the perceiver. Dreams follow the same principle. The soul receives what it can carry without harm. Feeling is adjusted to that capacity. The dream does not overwhelm because it is calibrated. This calibration explains why some dreams of the dead feel distant rather than intimate. Distance itself can be meaningful. It may indicate that the soul has acknowledged something but is not meant to merge with it emotionally. Distance can be protection. It can also be completion. The soul knows when closeness would confuse rather than heal. Likewise, warmth or nearness does not always mean attachment. Sometimes it reflects reassurance that fear has softened. The soul may be learning that connection does not require clinging. Nearness in a dream can be a teaching about trust rather than longing. It is also important to understand that the soul speaks honestly through feeling. It does not flatter. If guilt exists, the dream may carry weight. If forgiveness has begun, the dream may carry lightness. If confusion remains, the dream may feel ambiguous. None of this is meant to alarm. It is meant to reveal. Many people try to suppress their emotional response to these dreams, especially if it feels unsettling. They look for interpretations that will reassure them rather than listening to what the dream stirred. But the inner path asks for honesty before comfort. What the heart felt is the doorway to understanding. Ignoring it only delays integration. This does not mean that every feeling must be analyzed endlessly. It means it must be acknowledged without resistance. When the soul feels seen, it settles. When it is dismissed, it repeats itself in different forms. Dreams often return not because they are unsolved, but because they were unheard. Another subtle aspect of these dreams is that the feeling often outlasts the imagery. Days later, the images may blur, but the emotional residue remains. This residue influences how the dreamer moves through the world. Patience may deepen, fear may loosen, reflection may increase. This is the true effect of the dream. It is not meant to be remembered clearly. It is meant to work quietly. Understanding this lesson shifts the approach to dreams of the dead. Instead of asking, "What did I see?" the more meaningful question becomes, "What did this awaken in me?" The answer to that question often arrives gently through changes in behavior, awareness, or inner tone rather than through sudden insight. When the soul is listened to in this way, dreams no longer feel mysterious or frightening. They become part of an ongoing dialogue between inner awareness and unseen reality. A dialogue that does not need to be loud to be real. Lesson 5. Some dreams are about release, not return. Many people assume that when the dead appear in dreams, it means a bond is being reopened, or a connection is being pulled back into the present. But in the inner understanding, some dreams arrive for the opposite reason. They do not come to revive attachment, they come to complete it. The soul does not always dream in order to hold on. Sometimes it dreams in order to let go. Release, on the inner path, is not an act of forgetting, it is an act of settling. The soul carries impressions long after events have passed. Words left unsaid, emotions never fully acknowledged, guilt quietly buried, love never properly placed. These impressions do not disappear with time alone, they wait for readiness. When the soul reaches a state where it can release without fear, the dream becomes the space where that release can occur. In such dreams, there is often very little action. The dead may appear briefly, sit quietly, or simply be present without engagement. This simplicity is important. The soul is not revisiting the relationship as it once was. It is acknowledging it as it now stands. There is no urgency, no drama, no need for explanation. The encounter feels calm, neutral, or gently conclusive. This is why many of these dreams do not stir strong emotion. People expect tears, longing, or intense feeling, but instead they wake with a quiet sense of acknowledgement. The soul has recognized that something has reached its end, not an end in the sense of disappearance, but an end in the sense of completion. What needed to be carried has been carried. What needed to be felt has been felt enough. Release does not always feel relieving at first. Sometimes it feels like emptiness because the soul is no longer holding what once occupied space. But this emptiness is different from loss. It is light. It does not ache, it simply is. The soul notices the absence not as pain, but as openness. These dreams often follow long internal processes that the dreamer may not even be aware of consciously. Healing rarely announces itself. It unfolds quietly, layer by layer. By the time the dream arrives, much of the work has already been done. The dream is not initiating release, it is confirming it. This is why forcing interpretation can interfere with the process. If the mind insists on turning the dream into a reason to reopen grief or attachment, it pulls the soul backward from the completion that was offered. The inner path asks for trust here, trust that the soul knows when it is time to loosen its grip. In some cases, these dreams mark the end of an emotional role. The dead may have represented responsibility, dependence, regret, or unresolved expectation. When the soul no longer needs to carry that role, the image dissolves naturally. The dream gives form to the release, so the soul can recognize it without confusion. It is also important to understand that release does not mean emotional coldness. It means emotional honesty. The soul no longer pretends it needs what it has already integrated. It no longer reopens wounds that have already closed. It allows memory to exist without attachment. This kind of dream often brings subtle changes afterward. The dreamer may notice less emotional reactivity when thinking of the person. Memories may feel softer. The past may lose its grip without being erased. These changes are not dramatic, but they are real. They indicate that the soul has shifted its relationship to what was once heavy. Released dreams are often quiet, because closure does not need spectacle. It needs recognition. The soul recognizes what has been resolved and gently sets it down. No announcement is required. No explanation is demanded. The work completes itself. Understanding this lesson prevents misunderstanding. Not every dream of the dead is an invitation to revisit loss. Some are invitations to step forward without carrying what no longer belongs to you. The soul knows when it is time to move lighter. Lesson 6. Dreams of the dead remind the soul of its own depth. At the deepest level, dreams of the dead are not primarily about those who have passed. They are about the one who is dreaming. They arrive as mirrors, not messages. In sleep, when the body releases its hold and the senses withdraw, the soul encounters itself without the usual boundaries of role, identity, and time. In that state, seeing the dead becomes a way of remembering the soul's own depth. In waking life, the soul is often confined by form. It is named, labeled, occupied, and measured by what it does and what it appears to be. But in dreams, especially those that feel real and weighty, the soul tastes itself beyond these limits. It remembers that it is not bound by the body alone, nor restricted to the present moment. The appearance of the dead serves as a confirmation of this truth, not through explanation, but through experience. These dreams subtly loosen the fear of death without trying to erase it. They do not argue with fear, they soften it. The soul experiences continuity rather than finality. Not continuity of personality or memory, but continuity of being. The dream does not insist that nothing ends. It gently reveals that not everything does. This is why such dreams often leave behind humility rather than excitement. The soul awakens aware that it has touched something vast, ordered, and meaningful, yet not something it can control or fully understand. There is often a sense of reverence that follows, a quiet respect for the unseen structure of existence. The dream does not elevate the dreamer, it grounds them. In these moments, the soul recognizes that life is layered. What appears solid in waking life is only one level of reality. Beneath it lies depth, connection, and subtle order. The dead appear not as disruptions, but as reminders that the visible world is not the whole story. This recognition does not demand belief, it settles naturally, without argument. The dream also reminds the soul of responsibility. If the soul continues beyond form, then how one lives carries weight beyond appearances. These dreams often leave the dreamer more reflective, more measured, and more aware of inner states. Not because of fear, but because of understanding. The soul senses that what it carries inwardly matters. These dreams do not invite obsession. They do not encourage seeking repeated encounters or clinging to the unseen. They arrive, fulfill their purpose, and withdraw. The soul is not meant to chase them. It is meant to integrate what was revealed. The reminder lingers not as imagery, but as depth. Those who experience such dreams often notice a subtle change in how they relate to life. They become less reactive to surface concerns and more attentive to inner alignment. Death is no longer treated as an abstract end, nor as a constant fear. It becomes part of a larger order that the soul respects without needing to define. Dreams of the dead do their quiet work. They do not shock the soul awake. They gently remind it of what it already knows, but often forgets. That existence is not shallow, that meaning is not confined to form, that the soul belongs to something deeper than it can name. When the dream fades, the reminder remains, not as certainty, but as humility, not as knowledge, but as awareness. The soul continues its journey with a slightly wider gaze, carrying the understanding that it is more than it appears, and that life, in all its layers, is held within a wisdom far greater than fear. If you have seen the dead in your dreams, do not rush to interpret it as a sign to fear or cling. Let the dream settle where it belongs. These encounters are not meant to pull you backward into memory, nor are they meant to open doors you are not ready to walk through. They arrive to remind the soul of its depth, its continuity, and its capacity to witness without fear. What matters is not the image that appeared, but the quiet shift it left behind. Notice how the heart feels afterward. Notice what has softened, what has loosened, what no longer needs to be carried. The soul speaks most clearly when it does not explain itself. Do not seek these dreams, and do not resist them when they come. Let them pass through you as reminders, not attachments. Life continues, but with a slightly deeper awareness of what lies beneath appearances. The dream fades. The meaning remains. And the soul moves forward, lighter than before.